Hello, my project managers. How you doing? It's your buddy Phil here. It's a quick touch point just to find out how you're doing, to touch base with you. It's been a while, in the world of cyberspace, things go really quick. Looks like we haven't talked for a whole month. But I just wanted to address a few questions that came up on the group, on the Savage on Saturday group, and I also wanted to shout out to those buddies of mine on the group that have actually been helping out big time. You guys have been very, very helpful. Jude, Dustin, even Shri, who's studying for the exam. I realized that there've been lots of questions, so many questions that have been coming in, and the amount of support is just awesome. People jumping in to help each other. I really appreciate that, and I do want to address one or two questions that popped up on the group today. So let me go there. So there's a question from Sophia about contingency reserve versus management reserve. And I see that Shri jumped in to help you. She said contingency reserves are used to manage identified risks or known unknowns. Okay. We can measure this reserve in either cost or time. It is included in the cost baseline. That is correct. Very good, Shri. Awesome. Uh-oh, she's gone to town here. I've got a whole dissertation. Oh my goodness. I need to go take lessons at this rate. So Sophia says, thank you. In short, you cannot use management reserve when the project is over budget or the cost overrun. Dustin says, you have to have permission from management. That's the bottom line. Yep, usually we don't use management reserve for cost overruns. We would rather ask for some intervention of some sort by adding some additional monies. So Dustin says you should look for other options such as crashing and fast tracking. I am so proud of my PMPs. My bosses, they are holding down the fort, even though your friend Phil is not in sync every single time of the day. I see I've got some really capable hands doing exactly what they should do. And I do want to say a massive thank you to you guys for holding down the fort. Thank you so, so much. Another question from Mohanad says, in which process group does the kickoff meeting happen? He been reading his PMP guide. Very, very good, Mohanad. Very good. So if you open up the PMP guide, you see that depending on where you are in the project and what kind of project it is, your kickoff meeting happens after initiating. That's the bottom line. But at times it could be before planning begins, and other times it could be after planning begins. It really depends on the project, and that is discussed a little bit more in the PMP guide. So Mohanad, we can talk about that in our mentorship and coaching session tomorrow morning if you wish. So that's a very good question, and I'll open up the PMP guide and show you that tomorrow. Sophia says, currently deep diving into Phil's earned value mania, almost 3 hours and a bit of an alarmed face. And Mohanad gives her the round of applause. Yeah, Dustin says, I was in that live class on Halloween 2018. Don't be tricked. What a treat it is. That is hilarious. You guys are cracking me up. Oh dear. Mohanad, feeling silly, he says, what is the difference between work shadowing and reverse shadowing? Work shadowing means shadow the work. Oh dear, you guys are having too much fun on this group. Mohanad says reverse shadowing means shadow the work from the reverse side. Oh dear. Anyway, it seems like someone has jumped in to help. Reverse shadowing, says Shri, is when the expert follows you and offers to coach. Work shadowing, you follow the expert. You guys are just phenomenal. Thank you for answering all these questions in my absence. Mohanad, another one from Mohanad, feeling confused, he says. All project team members share responsibility for ensuring the rules documented in the team charter are followed. And then he says, what type of rules? Dear. Oh dear, I'm sorry I've missed all this fun. But he says, it came to my mind, no insults, no shouting in the office. I have no idea what rules. Oh dear. Oh dear. You're quite right, Mohammed. It could be any type of rule. For example, I taught a company, not a company, a college. You guys would know it's an Ivy League one, out on the East Coast. And they had a swear jar. So anyone who's caught swearing puts $5 into the jar. That's a ground rule, you know, in your team charter. So Shri says ground rules such as one person talking in a meeting, not everyone can talk at the same time. Team ground rules include the code of conduct. Mohammed getting a little bit smarmy here says, don't copy from the book. I have the book. Show me your imagination. Oh dear. I'm glad you guys are having fun studying this stuff. I'm very, very happy. I can't keep up with you guys. Seriously. You guys are light years ahead of me. I'm the person learning now. And Mohammed said, just watch Phil's video on change management versus configuration management, but still not clear. Let's say the customer requested a new building to the scope. This is change management and must be documented and analyzed, sent to CCB. If there's a mistake in the drawing for activity X, changes to a drawing. So basically, the drawings have to be configuration managed so that each version of the drawing is versioned and you know which version is the latest version. So configuration management is about features and functions being documented. It's also about anything that is a deliverable and deemed to be a configurable item being tracked and managed. So anything they say, oh, it's a configurable item, those items, and it could be anything. Any company could come up with its own set of configurable items. For example, I could say, oh, I want this pen to be a configurable item. So be it. Then make sure that whatever version I'm using is documented and tracked. And if I end up using a different version or a different version comes out and it's put into operation in the company, then we need to document in our manuals that, hey, we're now using this version of this equipment. You know, it's like servers or anything. Any item, any deliverable, anything that a company decides is configurable, end of story. And configuration management is all about tracking the features and functions. You may also say the versioning of whatever spec document and so on. So yeah, we can have a whole 1-week course about configuration management. Dustin says configuration management is standards and documentation standardization, making sure the latest documents are used. Very good. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Shri says, for example, I'm a project manager. You're my teammate working on building an iPhone. We developed the iPhone and were sharing the specifications with the customer. The customer did not like the camera specification and requested us to change the camera specification from 5 megapixels to 12 megapixels. When we do this, this means we are involved in configuration management. So changes which determine how to deal with product specifications, we use configuration management plan. Fantastic. You guys are just knocking it out of the park. I am so elated that you guys are using this group properly. You're talking about big things, big ticket items, and people who need help are getting help from their colleagues. It's just amazing. Truly, truly awesome. And I'm very happy to see that. Okay. So folks, really what I wanted to address today, I really just wanted to address the questions that came in. And I also wanted to let you know what is coming down the pike for next week. You know, all this stuff that you're seeing behind me, scope management and so on, that is part of what we're going to be covering next week. But I wanted to give you the top of the waves. We are going all the way in scope. So if you were not aware, just look below me right here. You can see the PMP exam tech camp information. It's starting on the 4th and it's going to the 8th, and we're meeting every evening for 5 days, but we are really going into the depth. And I wanted to give you just some idea of what we will be talking about in the area of scope. So I'll have some exercises for you guys. We'll talk about what scope is at a high level. Then we'll get into some medium level stuff. I'll be telling you what makes each process unique in scope, because scope is a beast. You know, the different processes sometimes throw people for a loop. A lot of folks get collect requirements and define scope confused. I'm going to be telling you what the differences are. And we're going to then go into all of those details regarding each one. You know, we're going to unravel each one, break the outputs apart, because trust me, scope is not a cakewalk per se. You have to apply yourself. And the thing is, a lot of people do not apply themselves in the studying of scope. You know, it could be taken for granted. Oh, I already know what this is. Go to the details. Trust me, there's a lot of stuff in the details of scope. So much stuff that, you know, I feel sorry for anyone who's not like hitting that stuff hard, you know. When it gets to create WBS, it even like blows up a lot more. There's a lot of stuff in create WBS that some folks may not have paid attention to. You know, like by the time we go into all of the different component names, root node, planning package, work package, code of accounts, and so on, all of this stuff, I'm going to be breaking that down and reminding you about it. You know, I'm going to be reminding you about all this stuff. So it's going to be quite detailed. And then we'll get into validate scope and take a look at how deliverables eventually get here, and take a look at some of the finer details regarding change requests coming out of validate scope and what could ensue, and control scope. You know, so we're going to go the full distance in this and really cover stuff in a lot of detail. So if you're looking for a course, you know, that can expand your PMP exam prep, you know, because some folks have been for training, but the training just didn't cut it, you know, and those folks now have to face the exam, you know, and they're not ready. They're just not ready. So the purpose of this is to help solidify the technical knowledge. That's why it's called PMP Exam Tech Camp. So if you look below, you can see it's Tech Camp because we're getting pretty technical. We're going into all of those troublesome areas that people often complain about. You know, people often complain about schedule management and cost management. Scope is maybe not talked about as much, but it's definitely one, in my opinion, that you want to keep on your radar. It could be a problematic one if you don't you know, do the due diligence to handle it. And risk management is also another one that people find hard because there's so much detail in it. And I'll just say that risk has 7 processes, and they all sound, you know, and appear to be very similar, but there are differences, you know. So those are some of the things that we're going to be covering, the minutia. So as you can see on the screen, this typical figure 5-1 has the high level stuff. A lot of times people forget we got to go to the next level. So we're going to go to the depth of the inputs, to the depth of the tools and techniques, to the depth of the outputs. You know, that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be going pretty hard into this stuff so that anyone getting ready for the exam will have a really solid base to unravel the minutia that very often boot camps don't address. A lot of boot camps don't address the detail, and we need to address the detail. What else? So yep, we're going to do that for all of the processes. There is a section in here. You can see the bars of gold. I call that the gold zone. You know, all those bars of gold. Because in the gold zone, I'm just telling you, plain and simple, this is what I think you can get on the exam. This is what I think they're going to do, and so on and so forth. So that proves to be very useful to students. You know, a number of our students that have gone through this program where I hone into the gold zone, they know that a lot of them are like, wow, it's as though you knew what they were going to do. I know what they're going to do. They ain't going to fool me. And then we'll talk a little bit about these data flows. So you can see the data flow diagram for scope is there, and you know, we're going to talk about all of this stuff. Nominal group, mind mapping, all these things that people typically do not want to address because they just got a bunch of slides they want to cover. They just want to comb through all the slides. You know, a lot of boot camps, it's a slide mill. That's what it is. It's trying to crank out a bunch of slides, and at the end of the day, they tell you that the course is done. No, it's not. All you did was confuse people. That's the honest truth. A lot of slide mills, just cranking out slides, and they judge the success of the course by the number of slides, you know, but not ours. You know, we are going into detail, depth, and to offer value. You know, a concept like work performance data, as you can see, we're going to unravel that. Going to look at how WPD, WPI, and WPR do what they do. You know, where they come from, where they're going. I know some of you already know this, but it's worth going into some more detail. There's some finer detail regarding all this stuff, you know. Lots of great imagery as well. You can't beat the imagery, you know, because it's one thing to have it in the PMBOK guide, but it's another thing to see it as I'm showing it to you, like right here. It's a totally different thing. So that's just a little bit, my friends, regarding what we're going to be covering next week in PMP Exam Tech Camp. We also have questions that we'll be asking, so we'll ask you questions, we'll do polls. You see slides like this where we have some group collaborative questions, and everyone gets a chance to vote and all that great stuff. All right, well, thank you very much for joining me tonight. It's a very short one. It's not like one of those typical long dog and pony shows I do. Not tonight. Not now. But go register, you know, for the PMP Exam Tech Camp. Go to www, just like right below, pmsucceed.com. Sign up, and we'll be extremely glad to have you as one of our students next week. Okay? Do it quick. This deal, I tell you, is a real steal. So thank you once again, and I look forward to seeing you next week. I hope you show up. Take care, and bye for now.